Hello and welcome to the Avrum Rosensweig Show.
Welcome to one of the internet's best podcasts, where we dive deep into the lives of the extraordinary and fascinating people who leave an indelible mark on our world. Join us as we explore their captivating stories, remarkable achievements, and unique perspectives that shape history and inspire generations. Get ready to embark on a journey through the lives of inspiring people unlike any other.
Hello, welcome to the show. My name is Avrum Rosensweig, and I am here with my dear colleague, Rabbi Shlomo for Parsha Prose. How are you, Rabbi?
Thank you very much. Preparing for Purim. Don't have my costume yet. If you have any idea, please share it with me.
Do you dress up every year?
Yes, of course. Here in school, if you don't dress up, they don't let you in.
So what would be a costume that you've worn in the past?
Well, usually it's something about like a rabbinic figure. It can be a Rashi. It can be like Rabbi Ovadia Yosef. I don't go too far from my comfort zone.
So when you dressed up as Rav Ovadia Yosef, who was the Sephardic chief rabbi, where did you get the costume from?
So I have a wonderful son-in-law who got me a costume in Yerushalayim many years ago, and I just use it, and it's wonderful. So and everyone is very impressed with it, with all the golden ornaments and decorations. Beautiful.
I have to say, when it comes to the chief Sephardic rabbi versus the chief Ashkenazi rabbi, in terms of the aesthetics, Rabbi Gemara, the Sephardic chief rabbi is leaps and bounds ahead.
I completely agree with you. And you mentioned in one of our podcasts the Chida, Rabbeinu Yosef Chaim David Azulai. Yes. He had 8 boxes with garments and beautiful clothing. He paid lots of attention to his wardrobe, and it was very impressive. For every kind of meeting with, let's say, the government, he had one with other rabbis, another one with Ashkenazic rabbi, another one. So he was very much into it.
So it's an interesting point. Let's do Shivim Panim for a few minutes, where we talk about our lives, we talk about Torah, the Jewish people, Israel. There's always this sense amongst the religious that one should be very, very humble, right? That we should take on the mantle, if you will, of humility. And that means that how we dress should be downplayed. So when I was in yeshiva, as an example, I remember the Rebbeim would wear black suits every single day, with a white shirt and a tie. Is there anything wrong with actually paying attention to beautiful suits, to dressing up really nicely?
Listen, I don't think so. Actually, we missed because you were not well, I was not well. We missed our lesson on Parshat Tetzaveh, which is dealing with Big Day Kehuna, with the beautiful priestly garments, and we will do it in Pekudei when we return to the account of what the collection of gold and silver and all the beautiful materials was used for. But this is a major issue. Like, a Kohen who works like in humble clothing, he might see himself like as a big tzaddik, as a big righteous person. But the Torah said that everything that he did is, we have to repeat. It's lo yatsa yedei chova. He did not fulfill his duty just because he missed one of the priestly garments. I think that there are 2 issues here, and this is like how we look upon ourselves and how we present ourselves to the world. So we have to be humble. We have to be modest also in our appearance. You don't have to be with Gucci or Zanga, I don't know, like suits for thousands of dollars. But when a rabbi meet the bigger crowd, sometimes the other people, he's not only present himself, he presents the Torah itself. And the Torah is beautiful. The Torah is something impressive. And people tend to be impressed with, nice presents. So I think when it comes to the public, you want to highlight the fact that this person, if it's a priest or a great rabbi, bring with him the beauty of Torah and the beauty of the mitzvot. So he has to be presented in the most beautiful way.
Right. So when I was studying the Parsha last week, and you're right, unfortunately, we couldn't be with our viewers and our listeners, and we apologize for that. I was overwhelmed by the aesthetics that God put forward to Moshe Rabbeinu, and then eventually through Bezalel. And Bezalel actually has an assistant, which we may talk about later. And I thought to myself, is there an inherent spirit? Is there an inherent godliness to beauty?
No questions about it. By the way, we are going to discuss today the Megillat Esther, and also it pays lots of attention to aesthetics from the description of the party that Ahasuerus threw in Shushan, where in little details you have all the beautiful fabrics and the rich ornaments in his palace. And Mordechai יצא מלפני המלך. When Mordechai leaves the palace, the Megillah is giving us like a detailed account of what you wear. בלבוש מלכות, תכלת וחור, ועטרת זהב. So we have, when we lack YouTube or visual a drawing of Mordechai, the Megillah is very rich in description what he wear. So apparently it was very important. It meant something.
So when God created the world, and the Torah says a number of times, and he saw that it was good, is that what he saw, at least in part, the beauty of it, of creation?
Partially, with no question. Obviously, when God said that it's good, he meant the essence of it. But beauty is a divine quality.
Yes, which is what I'm asking. Do you yourself have an appreciation for colors, for shapes?
Yes. Not like you. You're a real artist, but I know to appreciate colors, shapes. I like to be in museums. I like to see. If I cannot create it, I think that I have a good eye to see how real artists see it, and I always very, very impressed with it. So I like nature, certainly, but I like also visiting museum and to see the great art and how other people saw things. Just recently we were in a museum. I think it was in LA. Yeah, it was in LA. And there was one picture of Monet, I believe, where they found out that over time a certain a color faded, and they made a huge research to find the real color that he used, and they actually found it. They managed to restore it. The famous picture of Monet of the irises. Mm-hmm. So you have a whole display in the Getty Museum of how they got from a regular blue to a very special blue of the irises, which is more tend to be purple. Oh. And it's very interesting. It's very beautiful, and you learn to appreciate how artists see the world from a very unique admiration of colors and shapes.
Very much so. I consider myself to be a student of Vincent van Gogh. I started painting in 1995, and I was mesmerized by his work. For some reason, it resonated with me. It's like, people who study Torah, very often you move towards a particular chacham. As an artist, you eventually what happens is you choose someone who's in sync with your soul as an artist. So I'm what's called a favist. I like bold colors. I like bold brushstrokes. And
just do me a favor, keep your 2 ears intact. That's very important. Don't be too influenced by Van Gogh, who cut one of his ears.
Good advice, thank you. But my question to you, Rabbi, is there's so much discussion within Judaism about not creating images. Yes. Where does all of this fall into that discussion?
That's a great question. I do believe, by the way, especially when you go to churches and you see the magnificent pictures, but I'll tell you what I think. I think you touched upon a very important point here. I think the Torah appreciate the imagination and how you perceive the picture of what happened. And the Torah, a picture, in a way, limit your imagination. I'm sure that the person who came, let's say, to church and saw a certain picture of sometimes even God, or it can be like someone from the Bible, the old one or the new one, whatever it is, it fixed in your mind. That's the way you are going to see it from now on. And the Torah want to develop the brain, not so much the visual world. And therefore, when you come to shul, you are not going to see any picture. You are not going to see anything. You are, what you have to do, and that's what the Torah put lots of emphasis, read, teach your child to read, let their brain to imagine how the scene look like. The Torah does not want us to give a clear impression that is going to be engraved in our mind, and we will always see Abraham or Yitzchak or Jacob or Moshe Rabbeinu in a certain way.
Oh, that's a very nice thought. Very nice thought. But stainless, the windows in shuls, you find them quite a bit. In fact, if you go to in Israel, the Hadassah, is it?
Yes.
Beautiful, beautiful windows, right?
Oh, the Chagall windows.
The Chagall windows, yeah.
We talk about like a great artist, but it's funny that you talk to me about it, because this morning I give a Dvar Torah about all kinds of things in Israel. And this morning I spoke about Montefiore, who was the prominent person who actually envisioned Zionism before Herzl and before many others. And I wanted to show my students this one. This is like a small figurine of Montefiore, and I hold it in my pocket because I return it to my collection at home. I think you saw it, all these figurines. So this is Montefiore. Now, honestly, I'm not sure if halachic it's permissible or not. I didn't check it. I hope it's okay. I'm not going to destroy my 30 figurines there. But it's nice. It's nice to see it. And I can understand why people like visual things. But I think that the Torah actually want to take us away from the visual world to the more intellectual one, abstract one.
Yeah, by the way, I love your collection. I was sitting there at your Shabbat table, and I was going through all of them, and you quizzed me on a couple of them. That's a fantastic collection. And I love, by the way, I love the childlike side to you, that you love those things. I find that very beautiful, so good for you. Rabbi, we're going to dive into Parsha Prose in a moment. Before we do, I want to tell you that in a few weeks from now, actually closer to the end of April, I'm going to be doing a podcast with a fellow by the name of Albert Rutikanga. And he is Rwandan. And much of his family was killed during the Rwandan genocide in 1994. Today, he's the head of a project which brings together the Hutus and the Tutsis, the Hutus being the ones who were responsible for the genocide, and the Tutsis being the ones who were killed, up to 1 million people. And they live together. And I am going to be interviewing a victim of the genocide sitting next to someone who perpetrated the death of their family within their village. They have forgiven them. So I tell you this, and I tell our viewers and listeners because I want them to get ready for this one. It's going to be an important one. But more so, I've been thinking about forgiveness within Judaism. And I'm wondering, my question to you is, at that level of forgiveness, is that something that Judaism would encourage? that we should forgive those who kill our family?
I think that the word forgiveness here is not in the right place, in my opinion. How can you forgive the people who killed your family, who killed people, innocent people? I will never find it even necessary, not that I'm able or not, to forgive the people who killed the family I never knew. At the same time, humans have to live together, and they have to build a future. And for this, I will be the first one to try and to live with every person who wants to live with me in peace, to be together. For this, I don't have to forgive what he or his father or his grandfather did to me or to my parents or to my grandparents. And how can I forgive? How can I forgive a person when my mother never knew her parents? How can I forgive the fact that I never had my grandparents? Who give me the right to forgive for something like this? But I think the model that you are talking about is about like leaving the past behind in order to create better future. So forgiveness, I'm not sure. Going forward, that's a very different story.
Yeah, it's interesting because, in the Torah, we're commanded not to hate the Egyptians, right?
Right?
But yeah, we are commanded to hate the Amalekim.
Right? But we never and you know what? The Torah itself say that in third generation, Egyptians can mingle into the Jewish people, which, for example, the Moabites or the Ammonites can't. And one of the reasons is because we benefited from the Egyptians for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
When there was a famine and the Jacob and his children came, and we never forget it. We never forget it. And in the same way, we never forget what the Egyptians do to us. And we mention it every single year. "Avadim היינו לפרעה במצרים." At the same time, as I say, when you go forward, when you go to future generations, you can take an Egyptian and after 3 generations, even to marry him. So that means that we don't forget, but we enable a better future.
Okay, thank you. I may draw upon your wisdom and knowledge before that podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, we're here today to dive right back into Parsha and Prose. It's a weekly series that we do, learning and teaching the Parsha Hashvuah, the Torah portion of the week, through the lens of classic literature. Today we're doing it a little bit different, and let me tell you how. Well, again, welcome to Parsha and Prose. In this episode, we're diving into the Torah portion of Ki Tisa, a Parsha filled with powerful themes of leadership, faith, and the complexities of human nature. In this Parsha, there are 139 psukim, 139 lines. Today, we're looking at Ki Tisa through the lens of Megillat Esther, the book of Esther, a story of courage, of divine providence, and the hidden hand of God in our lives. While the events of the golden calf and Moses' intercession with God may seem worlds apart from the narrative of Queen Esther and the Persian Empire, we'll uncover fascinating connections between these two stories that speak to the strength of faith, the importance of community, and the subtle ways that God works in the background of our lives. So sit back, relax, and let's explore these ancient texts. Just a little bit about the Ki Tisa and Megillat Esther. We encounter a pivotal moment in the Israelites' journey through the wilderness in this Parsha. The Parsha begins with a census and the command to collect half a shekel donation for the upkeep of the tabernacle, the Mishkan, setting the stage for the themes of community and spiritual devotion. However, the narrative quickly takes a very dramatic turn with the story of the golden calf. The Israelites, feeling abandoned in Moses' prolonged absence on Mount Sinai, demands a new God to lead them. In a moment of collective crisis, they craft the idol, prompting God's anger and Moses' impassioned plea for forgiveness. The Torah concludes with Moses receiving the second set of tablets, the portion does, and symbolizing a renewed covenant between God and the people, underscoring themes of repentance, forgiveness, and the relationship between humanity and the divine. Now, Megillat Esther, the book of Esther, tells a dramatic and inspiring story of Queen Esther, her cousin Mordecai, and their courageous stand against the evil Haman in the Persian Empire. Set during the reign of King Ahasuerus, Xerxes I, the narrative unfolds in the royal palace of Shushan, where Esther, a young Jewish woman, rises from obscurity to become the queen. When the villainous Haman plots to annihilate the Jewish people, Esther, with the guidance of Mordecai, risks her life to reveal her Jewish identity to the king and ultimately foils Haman's wicked plans. The story is one of bravery, it's one of faith, and it's one of divine intervention, highlighting the theme that even in times of hidden providence, God's presence is felt. It is celebrated annually during the festival of Purim, a time for joy, feasting, and remembering the miraculous deliverance of the Jewish people. Rabbi, I love how you brought these two together. What was your thinking?
First of all, I wanted to focus indeed on Megillat Esther, but you're right. The theme that connects the two is what happened when there is no visible leadership. Moshe Rabbeinu disappeared and the nation got into confusion. Everything that they experienced so far just vanished to thin air because the leader was not there. The story of Megillat Esther is also like disappearance of the big leader, the major leader of the world. God was not visible in the story of the Megillah, and that we all know the name of God is not mentioned in the Megillah even once.
Mm-hmm.
And the most interesting thing is how people, the followers, so to speak, behave in a situation where the leader disappeared, is not visible. And indeed, there are many connections between the story of the Egel and Megillat Esther. But really, because we read Megillat Esther this year, coming Friday and Thursday night and Friday, I always think that Megillat Esther is one of the best thrillers ever written, and it's very downgraded. Even in your introduction, you spoke about the lessons that we learned from the Megillah, which are all true and correct. But, you know, we have the Megillah, and sometimes we don't understand what really happened there. Like, because again, this is a political roman, a novel. It's just unbelievable. The flow of the story is amazing. And we Jews, we so focus on the lessons from the story, and we don't focus on the story itself. And that's what I wanted actually to highlight and to maybe to draw the attention of our listeners to read more carefully Megillat Esther.
To read more carefully and look for what?
Like how the whole story develops. You know, you read the Megillah many times in your life. Do you have questions on the Megillah?
I do, yes.
Give me one.
I'll give you one. It was a strange. I found it very strange. I couldn't never understand the relationship between Mordecai and Ahasuerus. Like he refused to bow down to him, right?
To Haman.
I'm sorry, to Haman. Yet he was never killed. He was never murdered. Like he seemed to have some liberty, some space within that very oppressive environment. That's one of my questions. I couldn't understand that.
Okay, fantastic. So I would say the following, without insulting you, Avrum, you don't understand the story of the Megillah.
Okay, fair enough.
That's why you have a good question. Because every question comes to
highlight,
invite some understanding of what happened. And you are absolutely right. Why Haman did not kill Mordechai? Like he had the full power to do it. He was above everyone else, second only to the king. And he apparently could not use it. And actually, the moment he tried to use it, getting the idea from his wife and and making the tree and the to hang Mordechai, everything changed immediately. The whole story changed. And you know what? Another question that I will add on it, let's talk about the relationship between Haman and Achashverosh. You know, Haman and Achashverosh was a love story, basically. He brought him up above all the other ministers, and then while he gave him an idea what to do with the person that the king likes, immediately Achashverosh tell him, you take the horse, you take Mordechai, and humiliate him by carrying him in the main street of Shushan. What happened here? Until now he was like second in command, and now we made him like a shmate, carrying Mordechai. What happened here?
Yes.
So we have to understand what happened here from chapter 1 to the end of the Megillah, that strangely end with the fact that Achashverosh made taxes on all the countries he controlled. Like, why is this important? Like, of course, kings save taxes and so on. But we have to remember that the first chapter is talking about the lavish, extraordinary, extravagant party of Achashverosh in Shushan. And I want to ask you a very simple question. Who is the king that is running a 180 days party, not taking care over his people? Why do you think Achashverosh will do something like this? Such a party that you will invite everyone and wine is free and most likely women are free. Why he does it? Did you think about it? What king is doing something like, okay, one day, a week, a month, but 6 months? Who heard about something like this? And the answer is that Achashverosh was a very weak king for all kinds of reasons. And, you know, sometimes when you are weak, you have to be Mr. Popular. And a nice way to be popular is to shower parties on your people. Who doesn't like parties? But here at the end of the first chapter, we see two issues. We see Vashti refuses Achashverosh to come to the party, which led later to choose Esther in a very strange process, by the way, like collecting girls and then choosing from them, very unroyal. And the other one is Bigtan Vateresh, the two people who tried to kill Achashverosh. Now, usually we read like part of the story here, part of the story there, but it's all connected. You know, Vashti knew that Achashverosh is weak, and she did not want to be used by him to be Mr. Popular. Oh, I'll show you the beauty of my wife and how great she looks like. For herself, she was not a trophy of Achashverosh. According to our sages, she was the daughter of Nebuchadnezzar. That was the claim for royalty for Achashverosh. So she was disgusted by Achashverosh behavior, and she refused to come to the party because she knew that parties is not the way of a royal position to draw the crowd to him. You are responsible. You think about the budget of the country. You think about your citizens, not throwing parties. And she refused to come. And I do believe that Bigtan Vateresh themselves tried to kill the king for the same reason. Now think about it. They are Shomrei Asaf. They are the people, the bodyguards of Achashverosh. When these two people, the closest circle to Achashverosh, tried to kill him, what does that mean? You know, that it means that he is like a step away from being killed. And if not the intervention of Mordechai, which is very interesting why he chose to do it, and I have some ideas about it, I'm not sure that we have enough time because we cannot learn the entire Megillah, but we see two things. The closest people in the family, like Vashti, the closest people who are supposed to guard Achashverosh, they refused to participate in this show. to the point that they even tried to kill him. Let's tell you something about how the Megillah developed, because for me, what happened with Bigtan Vateresh is the most, I would say, the initiator of the entire Megillah. It's the most disturbing issue in the Megillah, and we usually like just skip it. But if you think about a situation where, let's say, think about like the new emperor Trump, and think about the bodyguard that will try to kill him. It's just unthinkable. That's what happened with Achashverosh. And from here, he develops paranoia. Why indeed took Haman and put him over all the ministers? Because he couldn't trust the ministers anymore. The closest people to him tried to kill him. How is he going to trust the minister? So he does two things. He takes someone which we never heard about before, and he put him above everyone else. This way, he ensures loyalty and fear and terror that indeed continue. Now, there is one person who does not have to be afraid of Haman. If indeed all the story here is the fear of Achashverosh that people try to kill him, and therefore he appoints Haman and he chooses a new wife, by the way, not from a royal origin. He actually does not know, and he doesn't want to know where she came from. The more insignificant she is, the less threat on his life is.
Yes. Very good.
There is one person in Shushan actually who is not concerned about all this, and this is Mordechai. Mordechai already showed his loyalty to the king because he told him about the plot against him. Now, if Haman will do something to Mordechai, Haman will be punished, because here you have a loyal person who proved himself. He was the only one in Shushan who proved that he cares about the king's life. Haman could not do anything to him. This will be, by the way, something that will raise the suspicion of Achashverosh. You get rid of a person who saved my life, maybe you try to take my life. And by the way, this was always the fear between kings, rulers, and their security people. If you just read, let's say from Stalin and Lenin on, you know who always became like the head of the Russian government, or at least the strongest person in the government. This was always the head of the KGB or the NKWD, the people who knew everything about everyone. And if you talk about Beria and Khrushchev and all these guys, Yagoda was unfortunately a Jew, all these people raised to power. They were the head of the security, but immediately after a year or two of, if they were lucky, 3 years, Stalin got rid of them. Because the moment you have a person who is too strong, he might arrange the next rebellion against the leader. So he was smart and got rid of them. So you have this ambivalent relationship between the ruler and the person on that responsible for his security. So Haman could not do anything to Mordechai. Mordechai was not just like a stupid guy who challenged Haman. Mordechai knew very well politically that Haman cannot do anything to him.
No, that's beautiful.
Now, what?
That's beautiful. It's beautiful.
It's just a story. I'm telling you again, because it became such like a source for all kind of religious lesson. We don't pay attention to the details. The story is just an amazing. Now, you will understand why Balayla Awuna Dedash Nata Melech. Esther, who he doesn't know anything about him, invites the king and Haman to a party. Now, would you sleep at this night when you are not 100% sure? Your wife never told you who are her parents, what family she came from. She invites Haman, the head of security, to a meeting with the ruler. What do they plan? And Achashverosh cannot close his eyes. And this was the greatest plan of Esther, to make Achashverosh nervous, paranoid, and he loses confidence completely because he never had confidence at the party shows and the getting rid of Vashti, who is doing things like this just because she refused one time. Taking a woman from the street, all this made him just like a wreck. He couldn't sleep at this night. And then Haman comes to the courtyard and he asks, like, Mi b'chatzer. You can hear how terrified he is that people are walking in the chatzer. And this will also explain you why no one can approach Achashverosh, not even his wife. She took the risk to come unless she approved by the king. Who is doing this? Mm-hmm. The answer is someone who is very, very afraid for his life. And when Esther invited Haman, she knew that she's going to make Achashverosh like nervous in an unbelievable way, and she used it psychologically later. Now think about Haman. He comes to the yard. He has a completely different plan. He wants to get the confirmation of Achashverosh to kill Mordechai. Nevertheless, that's where he lost his mind. This was a big mistake. Now what happened? When he came into the courtyard, Achashverosh started to be suspicious of this Haman. He was invited by the queen. Who knows? He has so much power in his head. If he's not going to kill him the next, okay, Biktan Vater, somehow we will save. But what about Haman? What about Haman? By the way, I just want to throw like a comment. If you see what happened between Netanyahu and the Shabak, you can understand these two centers of power. The ruler, so to speak, even in a democratic state, and the person who knows all the secrets, the Shabak. This will give you some idea about what even is going on today in Israel, not in Persia. But it's true everywhere. This ambivalent relationship between the ruler and the head of security. Now, Achashverosh, he tests Haman and his loyalty to the king. He gave him like a question. What would you do if you have a person that you really want to glorify,
to honor,
and you want to reward him for something? Because he just, remember from last night, he just read about how Mordechai is actually the only one he can trust in Persia. And they think, if I'm going to reward him, everyone will see that it's kedai, it's beneficial to be loyal to the king. And they think to himself the following: if Haman is loyal to me, he will say, give him like a new house and a car, or a new horse, or something nice, or like a big reward. But if he's not so loyal, if he actually, in his back mind, he think maybe one day to replace me, he will say something stupid. And that's exactly what happened. Haman said something which is completely stupid. He said, and Achashverosh understand that he's speaking about himself. He gave him the impression that he speak about himself, and he put him in a test. If he would say, give him like $10,000, a new car and a new house, Achashverosh will say, okay, this guy has no bad intention in his mind. But once he said, take your horse, take your garment, take him in the central street of Shushan, and say, Kacha yaseh laish asher hamelech hafetz bikaro. And he's talking about himself. Immediately everything changed. Achashverosh had this idea that Haman is actually about to replace him. And that's the reason for the party that Esther and Haman invited him. Maybe they will put the roller on the gun on the table, so he will commit suicide, so it's going to be nice, or they will tell him that they have like people to replace him, whatever the situation is. And then Esther is doing something very, very smart. She wants to make the king, and she risked her life for this, by the way, to make the king like, in Hebrew you call it pkat atzabim, like a person who cannot really think rationally. And she invited him for the second time to the party, and the rest is history. And that's where the hand of God is. It's a beautiful political adventure when you read the Megillah. But for certain things to happen, you need an invisible hand to arrange things. And I think that the Megillah is one of the most important books ever written for the Jewish people. In a way, it's very sharp to say that, maybe more than the Torah, because most of our life as Jews is in the world of politics, of the regular world, of powers, struggle of power, crash of powers, and God is not so visible in our life. And nevertheless, when we open the New York Times or the Toronto Star or whatever story about politics and a president and Senate, when we read this one, we have to remember Megillat Esther. That yes, in this world there is all kind of tension between this and that, but eventually someone is orchestrating all this for the benefit of the Jewish people. So I just gave you some bits about the Megillah. I hope that you like it and it will draw your attention to maybe learn it a little bit more. And by the way, that's exactly what happened at the end of the Megillah when he put taxes. Why is it important? It's very important because the Megillah starts with the weakness of Ahasuerus, the person who is Mr. Popular and throwing parties. At the end of the Megillah, Ahasuerus is going through transformation. He became a responsible king. He needs budget, but not the budget that Haman offered him for 10,000 kikar of silver. And you know why Ahasuerus bought it right away? Because I'm sure that he has such a deficit, greater than the deficit of the American government. And here came Haman and he told him, I'm going to give you all what you need. And Ahasuerus jumped on this offer because he needed the money. But at the end of the Megillah, yes, empires need money, but this time it was through financial vehicles, taxes. It was not just because like Haman offered him 10,000 kikar shekel, which was replaced by the life of the Jews. So this is the beauty of the Megillah, in my opinion. And think about the name in Hebrew, Esther. What is Esther? Esther in Hebrew means something which is invisible, something that you don't see. At the same time, you have Megillah. Megillah in Hebrew come from the shoresh of legalot, to reveal, to reveal, to expose. So you have this Megillat Esther. You have something which is exposed. This is the reality, the real politica, they say. But there is Esther. There is something behind the scene that is orchestrating all this.
Sweet. Rabbi, in the light of what you're saying of your narrative here, which is wonderful, is it possible too that Vayakam Melech Chadash, when the new king arose, that there's a shita that says it's not really in the new king. He just saw Joseph differently. Perhaps he saw Joseph the way Ahasuerus was seeing Haman.
That's fantastic insight. I actually thought about it this morning. Because the big question is, why Mordechai actually told Ahasuerus that he's about to be killed? Ahasuerus was not such a nice person. He was very, very weak. And I would say that apparently, as I said, if the people, the bodyguards decided to kill Ahasuerus, there was a very good reason for this. He was a person that put in danger the empire. Let's put it very simple. Why Mordechai decided to go against it? And by the way, this was a huge risk. Why? Because if they would be successful and the regime will be replaced, the first one to get rid of will be Mordechai, no question, and his people. So Mordechai made here a decision that could put himself in risk and the entire Jewish community. Yes. Why he decided to go against the stream and to tell Ahasuerus that he's about to be killed. And I think because this pasuk that you just mentioned, history taught us that most kings are not in our favor. It's very, very true. But once they change, Vayakum Melech Chadash is just getting worse. So it's better to be with someone who is not great, but you know him. You know what? Another thought that entertained my mind is that maybe it's actually good to have a king like this that is not very sophisticated and about parties, because you can bribe him if needed. Yes, money sometimes makes the difference, and Mordechai knew it very well. That's just, a side thought. But Mordechai knew this lesson from the Torah very, very well. New kings are bad news for the Jewish people.
Rabbi, so that we can bring the Parsha a little bit in the discussion around the golden calf together with the Megillah, we should say that we do have some limited time here. So I would like to ask you that in Ki Tisa, the Israelites turn to idolatry, and they do so out of fear and impatience, while in Megillat Esther, Esther and Mordechai act with unwavering faith in God. How do these stories reflect the power of faith, especially when faced with difficult choices or times of uncertainty?
This is the most important question that will explain what happened in Megillat Esther and what happened in the story of the golden calf. The golden calf is a story about a nation that was part of the Egyptian people. Think about the Torah said, for example, when they take the golden vessels, which later on used to the golden calf, obviously. The Torah said, "V'shala isha me'im re'uta," like one is going to ask her friend to borrow her the golden vessels. Now, re'uta, the Jewish people were friends of the Egyptians. They were weren't they slaves who hated their master? Well, there is a truth here that not too many people talk about it. But Yechezkel Hanavi, and this is not Rabbi Gemara said it, Yechezkel talks about it, that the Jewish people mingled into the Egyptian society. They became friends culturally and maybe personally of the Egyptians around them. And, you take people, they see miracles, they even close to our side, they got the Torah, but you cannot change people over a very short span of time. They were still this nation of slaves, yearning for leadership. When the leadership seems to be gone, Moshe Rabbeinu is not around, they go back to what they were before.
Mm-hmm.
The story of Megillat Esther is exactly the opposite. Number one, think about the names of Mordechai and Esther. They are not Jewish names. Today they are Jewish names because everyone is named after Mordechai and Esther. But Mordechai, Morduk, is one of the gods of the Persians. Mm-hmm. Esther is what today is star. Estahar is like part of the worship of the Persian to other gods. And that's always a danger that happened to Jews in exile. You cannot be like normal people. When they are around others, they will mingle into them, especially if they are minority into majority. The story of Mordechai and Esther is so unique because what happened there, because Haman and what the whole story in Shushan, they found their self-identity. They changed from being assimilated Jews to become proud Jews. And this is the story of Megillat Esther that I think resonates in every generation, because once we are in exile, it doesn't make a difference if it was Spain or America, Canada, or Europe. People mingle into their societies. And to find their own voice, it's beautiful when we become aware of who we are. But unfortunately, in most cases, it doesn't come from us. We find who we are because we have a person like Haman, because we have people like the Inquisition. We have people like today, the Hamas, who reminds us what does it mean to be a Jew. And anti-Semitism was always, unfortunately, a major tool to rediscover who we are. So if we don't want to know it by ourselves, let some goyim, let some other people, not Jews, and some anti-Semites to remind us who we are. That's a very sad a lesson from our history, but it repeats itself every single generation. And as I say, from Egypt until this very day.
Rabbi, in conclusion, I simply want to understand Aaron in the whole context of the golden calf. You know, the Jewish people were afraid because, as you said before, their leader was not visible, Moses. They said, where is this man? And just that phrase in of itself, it's almost like they had been distanced from him already. Where's this man, right? And then
They
Moses
were sure that he disappeared.
Right. They were absolutely sure of that. So Aaron says, listen, give me the earrings of your wives and we'll fix this. And he creates a golden calf. So my question is very simple. Was Aaron a frightened man at that point? And then later when Moses said to his brother, what did you do? What happened here? He told him the story, but he told it differently than it actually happened. So was he frightened and was he sort of discombobulated by the whole event? Was he afraid of Moses' response, God's response? Who was Aaron in this context?
This is actually a major question that our sages in the Talmud are not sure about. What Aaron did was noble, or maybe was a big mistake in leadership. But I will tell you what I do think, and it's supported by some of the midrashim of Chazal. Do you know what happened when you lack leadership? Do you remember, like, when we discussed, I think in one of our first podcasts, the Baal's Boob, the story, The Lord of the Flies.
Yes.
What happened? What happened there when they had no leadership? You know, it ended up with killing Simon. Now, you know, in the story of the golden calf, there is one person that appears once and never appears again, and apparently a very important person. This is Hur. Hur, who came from the tribe of Judea, was one of the people that accompanied, was part of the leadership of the Jewish people, and he's going with Aaron, you know, to control the situation, and then we never hear about him. And according to our sages, he was killed by the mob. He tried to stand against them and to tell them, wait another day until Moses will come, and they killed him. They learn it from one word in the story, Vayiven Mizbeach, and they understand it like he did not build an altar, but Vayiven, he understood, Havana, understood Mizbeach from someone who was slaughtered. And this is about Hur. And they took this idea, I guess, from the fact that we never hear about Hur again. This is the only episode that his name pops up, apparently a very important person, and we never hear about him again. And we know what mob who is in like a frenzy situation, what he can do. And Aaron was afraid for his life. So he had to do something kind of like occupational therapy for the mob. And they suggested to do something that they knew very well, because in Egypt they did see these golden statues and the admiration to gold and richness. What they tried or not, who are we to judge?
Rabbi, I want to thank you very much for your wonderful Divrei Torah, both on the Parsha as well as Megillat Esther. I'm very excited about Purim coming up. It's a beautiful holiday, one of great happiness, and we're actually told that we're supposed to drink a little bit, party, and be merry.
Not too much. We have to remember that the most important thing, the other ones, matanot la'evyonim, to give charity to the poor, to enjoy the presence of each other, and therefore we have the mitzvah of mishloach manot, shalach manas. It's all come for increase and enhance Jewish unity and thinking about the other one.
Very, very much so. And you make an excellent point. And there's a lot of tzedakahs out there, a lot of charities out there. All you have to do is go online to find out where you can give your mishalach manot. But that's the beautiful thing about the Jewish holidays and the Jewish people, is that even in times of merriment and great happiness, that we're reminded, like when the groom breaks the glass under the chuppah, we're reminded, don't forget about the destruction of the temple. Don't forget about the poor people out there.
Especially in times of happiness. And even the Torah emphasized that in the three regalim, the first thing you have to think about is the widow, the orphans,
Yes.
the stranger. You have to make sure that they are happy as your family.
Rabbi, I want to wish you and your family a Chag Sameach, and I look forward to being with
Toda
you again next week. And to all of our viewers and listeners, have a beautiful holiday and enjoy this Parsha. There's a lot to learn. Am Yisrael Chai. We will be with you soon. Zay Gesund.
Amen. Thank you.